How can a blade forged over 2,000 years ago remain untarnished, gleaming as if it were crafted yesterday? Discovered in 1965 from a tomb in China's Hubei province, the Sword of Goujian astonished archaeologists. Belonging to King Goujian of Yui, this bronze weapon predates modern metallurgy by centuries. When it was unearthed, the blade showed no sign of corrosion, despite resting in damp soil for millennia. Even more incredible, its edge was still sharp enough to slice paper with ease. Scientists tested the sword and found traces of tin and sulfur, elements that may have formed a protective layer. But how could ancient craftsmen have achieved such perfection without advanced tools or knowledge of chemistry? Was it mere accident or evidence of lost metallurgical techniques that remain beyond our grasp? But even today, the truth remains hidden, leaving us with more questions than answers. What do you think? Could ancient civilizations have mastered secrets of metalwork long forgotten? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more mysteries that challenge history itself. What kind of ancient blade could cut through solid steel, leaving even gun barrels shattered? For centuries, Damascus steel swords were legendary across the Middle East and Europe. Originating around the 3rd century CE, these blades were admired for their wavy, water-like patterns and unmatched strength. Travelers and chroniclers spoke of warriors slicing through iron helmets, armor, and even muskets with a single stroke. The question is, how? Modern metallurgists have studied surviving specimens and discovered traces of carbon nanotubes within the metal, a microscopic structure far ahead of its time. Yet no one fully understands how ancient smiths achieved such results with primitive furnaces and tools. Was it a lost art of alloying, a secret forging method, or perhaps a technique passed down through guarded guilds now forgotten? But even today, the secret remains locked within the steel itself. What do you think? Was Damascus steel simply skillful metallurgy, or evidence of a lost technology? What kind of weapon bends like a whip, yet strikes with the deadly edge of a sword? In South India, warriors of the 11th century wielded a weapon unlike any other, the urumi. Forged as a long, flexible blade, sometimes extending over 6 feet, it could coil around a warrior's waist like a belt, ready to be unfurled in battle. When swung, its steel ribbon lashed out in wide, unpredictable arcs, striking multiple opponents at once. The weapon demanded incredible skill. A poorly trained fighter risked cutting themselves instead of the enemy. Masters of Kalaripayattu, India's ancient martial art, trained for years to tame the urumi's wild movements. Yet historians still wonder, why design a weapon so dangerous to its own wielder? Was it a psychological weapon meant to terrify foes, or the pinnacle of martial artistry lost to time? But even today, the urumi remains a mystery of design and intent. Could it have been more than just a weapon? What secrets lie beneath the earth, waiting for thousands of years to be rediscovered? In 2013, archaeologists in central China uncovered vast burial sites containing remarkably preserved Bronze Age war chariots. Dating back over 3,000 years, these wooden vehicles were reinforced with bronze fittings, decorated with intricate carvings, and often buried alongside the remains of horses. The discovery revealed not only the scale of ancient warfare, but also the ritual importance of these machines in early Chinese society. But one mystery lingers. Why were so many chariots buried instead of preserved for battle? Some scholars believe they were offerings to ancestors. Others suggest they symbolize the ruler's power extending into the afterlife. And curiously, the construction of these chariots shows advanced engineering techniques. Wheels, axles, and harness systems far more sophisticated than previously imagined for that era. But even today, their purpose remains uncertain. Were these chariots tools of war or sacred vehicles for a journey beyond life? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more mysteries that challenge history itself. How could a simple spear turn the tide of battles across the ancient world? The Roman pilum was more than just a throwing spear. It was a weapon designed with ingenious purpose. Its long iron shank, attached to a wooden shaft, was deliberately made soft enough to bend or break upon striking enemy shields. Once lodged, the heavy spear rendered the shield useless, forcing opponents to drop their defense in the heat of combat. Some accounts suggest the pilum even shattered on impact, preventing enemies from throwing it back. Yet the true design secrets remain debated. Did Roman smiths intentionally weaken the iron with clever metallurgy, or did battlefield conditions create this effect by chance? Archaeological finds show multiple variations, hinting at constant innovation to perfect the weapon. But even today, the pilum leaves us questioning its full potential. Was it simply a disposable spear, or a symbol of Rome's tactical brilliance? What kind of ancient weapon could burn even on water, defying every attempt to extinguish it? First recorded in the 7th century CE, Greek fire was a terrifying weapon of the Byzantine Empire. Launched through bronze siphons mounted on ships, it unleashed streams of blazing liquid that clung to enemy vessels, spreading unstoppable flames. Sailors described the horror as fire that roared across the sea, impossible to douse with water, sand, or even vinegar. Its psychological impact alone made it one of history's most feared naval weapons. But the formula remains a mystery. Was it a mix of petroleum, sulfur, quicklime, or something more advanced, long since forgotten? Despite centuries of searching, no surviving texts reveal its true composition. Even today, chemists admit they can only speculate. And so the question lingers. Was Greek fire an accident of chemistry, or a secret technology lost forever? What weapons guarded the first emperor of China, even in death? In 1974, farmers in Xi'an uncovered the vast Terracotta Army, thousands of clay soldiers buried with Emperor Qin Shi Huang over 2,000 years ago. Among their ranks, archaeologists discovered crossbows crafted with astonishing precision. They, bronze trigger mechanisms were so well engineered that many still function today, rivaling modern mechanical design. Some even suggest they could shoot arrows with lethal accuracy at ranges far beyond what was thought possible in that era. But questions remain. Were these crossbows purely symbolic, buried as guardians in the afterlife, or were they once part of a vast arsenal ready for battle? The level of mass production hints at an advanced military industry, yet the methods used to forge such consistent, standardized parts remain unclear, and so the mystery endures. Did Qin's engineers master technologies we've only recently rediscovered? How can a 1,600-year-old iron monument stand tall without rusting in the open air? Rising over 7 meters in Delhi, India, the iron pillar is believed to have been erected during the reign of Chandragupta II in the 4th century CE. Despite centuries of monsoons, heat, and humidity, the pillar shows almost no signs of corrosion. This baffled scientists for decades, as iron structures from much later periods have crumbled under far less exposure. Metallurgical studies revealed that ancient Indian smiths mixed the iron with phosphorus and crafted it using a forging method that created a protective layer. Still, the exact technique, how such uniformity and resilience were achieved with primitive furnaces, remains unexplained. Was it intentional design, or an accidental mastery of chemistry lost to time? Even today, the iron pillar defies our understanding of ancient metallurgy. Could it be evidence of a forgotten technological genius? How did Viking blacksmiths create blades so pure, centuries before modern steelmaking existed? Between the 9th and 11th centuries, warriors across Europe wielded swords, marked with a single word, Ulfberht. These weapons were stronger, lighter, and far sharper than anything their enemies carried. Archaeologists studying the swords found that their steel contained an unusually high carbon content and almost no impurities, rivaling modern industrial methods developed nearly 800 years later. But this discovery raises more questions than answers. How could Viking smiths, working with simple furnaces, produce crucible steel of such quality? Some believe the technology was imported from the East, while others suggest the Ulfberts were forged using a secret process lost to history. Counterfeits of the blade have also been found, proving just how feared and desired these weapons were in their time. Even today, the Ulfberht remains a riddle in steel. Was it trade, chance, or lost knowledge that gave the Vikings such an advantage? How could a stone blade rival and even surpass the sharpest modern surgical instruments? The Aztecs of Mesoamerica crafted weapons from obsidian, a volcanic glass known for its razor-thin edges. When fractured, obsidian can be sharpened to a point so fine it approaches the molecular level. Archaeologists and scientists have shown that these blades are many times sharper than steel scalpels, capable of cutting with astonishing precision. Aztec warriors mounted obsidian blades on wooden clubs, called makwahuatl, weapons feared for their ability to slice through armor and bone. But beyond warfare, obsidian was also used in ritual sacrifice, its surgical sharpness linking it to the realm of the divine. The question is, how did ancient craftsmen perfect a material so fragile, shaping it into reliable weapons of war and ceremony? Even today, obsidian scalpels are used experimentally in modern surgery. Could the Aztecs have held knowledge about materials science that we still underestimate? How did ancient Egyptian archers strike with weapons powerful enough to pierce armor, centuries before modern bows? The Egyptians mastered the art of the composite bow, a weapon crafted not from a single piece of wood, but from layers of wood, horn, and sinew. This combination gave the bow incredible strength and flexibility, allowing it to shoot arrows with far greater force than simple wooden bows of the same size. Depictions in tombs and surviving fragments show these weapons were prized by pharaohs and warriors alike, symbols of both power and precision. Yet much of the technology is lost. The exact methods of construction, how layers were bound, how adhesives were perfected, and how craftsmen balanced strength with durability remain unclear. Some scholars believe Egyptian bows rivaled even medieval longbows in range and power, suggesting a mastery far ahead of their time. Even today, the composite bow remains a mystery of design and technique. Was it practical innovation or a lost science of warfare? What weapon could turn a nomadic warlord into a figure feared as the scourge of God? According to legend, Attila the Hun carried a sacred, double-edged sword, believed by his people to be a gift from the gods. Chroniclers wrote that it gave him divine authority, ensuring victory in battle and striking terror into enemies across Europe. Whether it was a real weapon or a symbol of power, its reputation became inseparable from Attila's conquests. But the mystery deepens. No confirmed trace of the sword has ever been found, and historians debate whether it was an extraordinary blade, a ritual artifact, or pure myth. Some accounts suggest it was discovered accidentally by a shepherd, linking its fate to divine will, while others believe it may have been a relic passed down from earlier civilizations. Even today, the sword's existence remains uncertain. Was it a weapon of unmatched craftsmanship, or a legend forged to magnify Attila's rule? What tool allowed ancient warriors to strike their enemies from distances once thought impossible? The Maya, like many ancient civilizations, used the atlatl, a spear thrower that acted as a lever, hurling darts with incredible speed and power. By extending the thrower's arm, the atlatl increased force and range, making its projectiles far deadlier than hand-thrown spears. Archaeologists have found elaborately decorated atlatls in Maya sites, carved from wood and inlaid with jade, suggesting both practical and ceremonial importance. But mysteries remain. Why did such an effective weapon disappear with the rise of the bow and arrow? Some argue the atlatl's complexity limited its use, while others believe it carried symbolic value tied to gods of war and hunting. Yet evidence shows that when used skillfully, an atlatl could pierce armor and strike with accuracy across great distances. Even today, its design amazes historians and engineers alike. Was the atlatl merely a step toward bows, or a forgotten pinnacle of ancient weaponry? Why would warriors ride into battle on chariots that seemed designed as much for ceremony as for war? The Celts, spread across Europe more than 2,000 years ago, were known for their use of light, two-wheeled chariots. Archaeologists have uncovered burial sites where warriors were interred alongside these vehicles, sometimes with horses and weapons intact. The craftsmanship is striking: iron fittings, decorated wheels, and intricate harness designs, suggesting these chariots were more than just tools of combat. Some historians argue that Celtic chariots were highly practical, carrying warriors swiftly across uneven terrain. Yet others believe their primary purpose was symbolic: to display status, inspire fear, and connect warriors with the divine during ritualized warfare. The presence of sacrificed animals and ceremonial items in chariot burials adds weight to this interpretation. Even today, their role remains unclear. Were Celtic chariots deadly machines of war, or sacred vehicles meant to embody the spiritual power of battle? What kind of weapon turned the very wheels of war into blades of destruction? In the armies of ancient Persia, commanders unleashed scythed chariots, fast, two-wheeled vehicles with long curved blades attached to their axles. As horses charged forward, the chariots spun across the battlefield, their blades sweeping low to slice through enemy lines. Classical writers describe them as terrifying machines, capable of cutting down entire ranks of soldiers in a single pass. Yet their effectiveness is debated. Some historians suggest scythed chariots were more psychological than practical, difficult to control, vulnerable to rough terrain, and often neutralized by disciplined infantry. Others argue that in the right conditions, their speed and terror factor gave Persian armies a devastating edge. Even today, these deadly vehicles remain shrouded in mystery. Were scythed chariots true engines of mass destruction, or powerful symbols meant to intimidate more than to kill? How did ancient Japanese swordsmiths transform brittle iron into blades of legendary sharpness and strength? The katana, the weapon of the samurai, was more than just a sword. It was the result of a forging process shrouded in mystery. Japanese smiths folded and hammered the steel repeatedly, sometimes thousands of times. This process removed impurities, distributed carbon evenly, and created the katana's distinctive wavy grain pattern. The result was a blade that was both razor-sharp and flexible enough to withstand the shock of combat. But questions linger. Did smiths truly understand the science behind their craft? Or were they guided by ritual and tradition that accidentally achieved perfection? Some researchers believe the folding technique was a symbolic act as much as a practical one, embedding spiritual value into every strike of the hammer. Even today, metallurgists study katanas to uncover their secrets. Were they simply masterpieces of craftsmanship, or evidence of knowledge that bridged the gap between art and science? What made the arrows of the Scythians so feared that even the slightest wound could mean certain death? The Scythians, nomadic horsemen who dominated the Eurasian steppes, were famed not only for their skill with the bow, but also for their deadly innovation, poisoned arrows. Ancient writers described how Scythian warriors dipped arrowheads in venom, rotting corpses, or even mixtures of snake venom and human blood, creating weapons that inflicted slow, agonizing deaths. Archaeological evidence suggests special containers were carried for these toxins, hinting at a deliberate and sophisticated practice. But many mysteries remain. How did they preserve such deadly substances during long campaigns? Were their concoctions based on ritual knowledge, shamanic traditions, or experimental trial and error? And why did this practice fade, leaving little trace in later warfare? Even today, historians debate whether the Scythians' poison arrows were more psychological terror than battlefield reality. Were they truly as lethal as the legends claim, or exaggerated tales to magnify their fearsome reputation? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more mysteries that challenge history itself. Why would ancient warriors wear helmets crafted not of bronze or iron, but from the tusks of wild boars? Archaeologists have uncovered helmets dating back to Mycenaean Greece, made from rows of polished boar tusks stitched onto leather caps. These strange creations appear in Homer's Iliad, where heroes like Odysseus are described wearing them. Each helmet required dozens of tusks, meaning entire hunts were carried out just to craft a single piece of armor. Such effort suggests they carried more than practical value, but their true purpose remains debated. Were these helmets effective protection in combat, or were they ritual symbols of prestige, wealth, and connection to the hunt? Some believe they marked warriors as elite fighters, while others argue their appearance in tombs hints at ceremonial, rather than battlefield use. Even today, the meaning of the Boar-Tusk helmet is uncertain. Was it armor, a badge of honor, or a sacred relic of Mycenaean ritual? What can a single weapon reveal when it turns up thousands of miles from where it was made? Archaeologists have uncovered bronze spearheads in regions far outside the boundaries of known Bronze Age civilizations. Some were found in northern Europe, others deep in Asia, places where such metallurgy was thought to be absent at the time. Their shapes, alloys, and casting methods often match styles from distant cultures, raising questions about how they arrived there. Were they carried through long-distance trade, taken as spoils of war, or left behind by forgotten migrations? The mystery grows when some spearheads appear in societies still using stone tools, suggesting a sudden leap in technology without clear explanation. Were these weapons symbols of power, exotic imports valued beyond their practical use, or evidence of contact between cultures long believed isolated? Even today, their scattered presence challenges our understanding of ancient connections. Were these spearheads simple trade goods, or clues to vast networks of exchange now lost to history? How did ancient armies bring down the mightiest walls of their time without cannons or explosives? Across the ancient world, from Mesopotamia to Greece, massive siege towers rolled onto battlefields. These towering wooden structures, often several stories high, were covered in hides to resist fire and pushed forward by soldiers. Inside, ladders and platforms allowed attackers to climb above city walls, while archers rained arrows down on defenders. Some towers were fitted with drawbridges that dropped directly onto ramparts, turning the defenders' stronghold into a vulnerable passageway. Yet, mysteries remain. How did engineers of the past build and move such colossal machines with limited tools? Were they used regularly in warfare, or only for rare, large-scale sieges? Archaeological evidence is scarce, leaving historians to rely on ancient accounts that may exaggerate their effectiveness. Even today, siege towers stand as symbols of ingenuity and power. Were they truly unstoppable war machines, or legends inflated to magnify ancient victories? What kind of weapon could turn a wooden wall into splinters from hundreds of feet away? In ancient China, engineers developed massive crossbows, designed not for single soldiers, but for entire crews. These siege crossbows, sometimes called nu, were mounted on wooden frames and capable of launching heavy bolts that pierced armor and fortifications alike. Historical texts suggest they could shoot multiple arrows at once, devastating enemy ranks before close combat even began. But the true scale of their power is uncertain. Archaeological finds include bronze trigger mechanisms of extraordinary precision, hinting at advanced engineering far ahead of their time. Yet scholars debate how effective these giant weapons really were. Could they deliver consistent accuracy, or were they more symbolic demonstrations of power during sieges? Even today, the siege crossbow remains a puzzle of design and strategy. Was it a true game-changer in ancient warfare, or a forgotten experiment in the race for military dominance? How did Rome's armies break through stone walls long before? The age of cannons. The Roman ballista was a siege engine of astonishing power, resembling a giant crossbow mounted on a wooden frame. Powered by twisted ropes of sinew or hair, it hurled massive bolts and stones with deadly force. Ancient accounts describe these projectiles tearing through shields, crushing enemy ranks, and even splintering sections of fortified walls. To defenders, the ballista must have seemed like thunder unleashed by human hands. But the exact mechanics remain debated. How did Roman engineers achieve such precision and range with materials so primitive? Archaeological reconstructions suggest their designs combined mathematical skill with trial and error, producing weapons that could rival later medieval trebuchets. Yet questions linger about just how destructive they truly were in practice. Even today, the ballista stands as a symbol of Rome's military genius. Was it the ultimate siege weapon of its time, or has history exaggerated its power? What weapon could hurl stones heavier than a man across vast distances long before gunpowder ever changed war? The trebuchet, perfected in the Middle Ages, is often credited to European innovation. Yet some sources suggest its earliest use may trace back to the Byzantine Empire. Records describe massive engines capable of launching boulders, firepots, and even diseased carcasses into enemy cities. Unlike earlier traction trebuchets powered by men pulling ropes, these machines relied on massive counterweights, an engineering leap that multiplied their destructive force. But the mystery is where the design came from. Did Byzantine engineers invent the counterweight system themselves, or was it borrowed from lost traditions of the East? The lack of surviving blueprints or clear archaeological evidence leaves only scattered accounts of their use. Even today, the origins of the counterweight trebuchet remain uncertain. Was it a Byzantine breakthrough in siegecraft, or the last echo of an even older, forgotten technology? Why were weapons placed in tombs where no battles would ever be fought? Across Europe, from Brittany to the British Isles, archaeologists have uncovered megalithic graves containing finely crafted stone axes, daggers, and maces. Many of these objects show little sign of use, their edges unchipped and their surfaces polished to perfection. Some were made from exotic stones carried from distant quarries, suggesting they were symbols of power, wealth, or spiritual authority rather than tools of war. But the true purpose of these ritual weapons remains a mystery. Were they offerings, meant to protect the dead in the afterlife, or ceremonial objects tied to the status of the individual buried with them. The effort required to craft and transport them hints at deep cultural significance, perhaps even a belief in weapons as conduits between the living and the divine. Even today, their meaning is uncertain. Were these weapons practical arms, sacred treasures, or symbols of forgotten rites? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more mysteries that challenge history itself. What secret weapons might have lurked in the shadows of the world's first great cities? In the ancient lands of Mesopotamia, where writing, law, and empire first emerged, there are also whispers of assassins, figures who struck silently with concealed blades. Archaeologists have uncovered small daggers, crafted from bronze and later iron, hidden within graves and temple sites. Some are so finely worked that they seem designed not for open battle, but for close, secretive strikes. Ancient texts speak of court intrigues, betrayals, and silent killings, hints that such weapons may have played roles in shaping dynasties, yet the mystery remains. Were these blades truly the tools of assassins, or ceremonial objects tied to rituals of sacrifice and power? The lack of clear records leaves only speculation, and each discovery adds to the intrigue. Even today, the hidden blades of Mesopotamia remind us of the darker side of civilization's rise. Were they instruments of politics, religion, or survival? How? Did ancient smiths turn fragments of the heavens into weapons of the earth? Archaeologists have discovered Iron Age daggers forged not from ordinary ore, but from meteorites. One of the most famous examples comes from the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun, whose dagger blade was crafted from iron that fell from the sky. Scientific tests confirmed its nickel-rich composition matched that of meteorite metal, proving that ancient artisans recognized and harnessed these rare celestial materials. But this discovery raises haunting questions. Did ancient cultures see such weapons as divine gifts, symbols of kingship, or tools imbued with cosmic power? With limited technology, how did they manage to shape such hard, unique material into finely worked blades? And why do so few examples survive, scattered across distant cultures from Egypt to Siberia? Even today, these meteorite daggers blur the line between heaven and earth. Were they practical weapons, or sacred relics meant to bind rulers to the cosmos itself? How did early gunsmiths create massive bronze cannons with techniques we can barely replicate today? From the late Middle Ages through the Renaissance, kingdoms across Europe and Asia produced bronze cannons of astonishing size and strength. Some, like the great bombards of the 15th century, could hurl stone balls weighing hundreds of pounds. The craftsmanship was extraordinary. Smooth interiors, flawless casting, and durability that allowed them to endure repeated firings. Yet when modern metallurgists study these weapons, they find puzzles. The secret of casting such enormous bronze pieces in a single pour without cracking or weakness has largely been lost. Historians wonder, did ancient foundries possess specialized knowledge now forgotten, or were these successes rare accidents of skill and luck? Surviving cannons stand as testaments to a craft that combined artistry with deadly innovation. Even today, their methods remain uncertain. Were these cannons simply the triumph of trial and error, or evidence of advanced techniques lost to history? What kind of sound could strike fear into an enemy before a single weapon was raised? Among the Celts of Iron Age Europe, warriors carried massive bronze war horns known as carnyx. These instruments, with long, vertical tubes and animal-shaped bells, often fashioned as snarling boars or dragons, produced deep, unsettling tones that echoed across battlefields. Ancient accounts describe the noise as terrifying, a blaring roar that unsettled enemies and emboldened Celtic fighters charging into combat. But their role is still debated. Were these horns purely psychological weapons, or did they serve ritual and ceremonial functions as well? Some were found in sacred bogs, deliberately broken and deposited, suggesting a link to religious practice. Others were finely decorated, hinting at symbols of prestige rather than battlefield tools. Even today, reconstructed carnyx replicas produce a chilling sound, unlike any modern instrument. Were Celtic war horns practical instruments of war, or sacred relics meant to summon the power of the gods? Why did a single shield come to define the identity of an ancient warrior? In classical Greece, hoplites marched into battle carrying large, round shields, called aspis or hoplon, made of wood, faced with bronze, and heavy enough to protect the body. These shields were more than defensive tools. They were symbols of belonging. Warriors decorated them with bold emblems, gorgons, animals, or simple geometric designs that identified city-states and conveyed messages of strength. To lose one's shield in battle was considered the greatest dishonor, for it meant abandoning not just personal defense, but the protection of comrades in the phalanx. Yet the symbolic power of the hoplite shield remains debated. Were these emblems purely practical for recognition, or did they carry religious and cultural weight, binding soldiers together through shared identity? Some believe the shield itself embodied the spirit of the polis, making each hoplite a living extension of the city. Even today, the hoplite shield remains an enigma. Was it mere armor, or a sacred emblem of unity and power? How did ancient armies reduce mighty stone walls to rubble without the power of explosives? In the great cities of Mesopotamia, the Babylonians perfected the use of battering rams, massive wooden beams tipped with bronze or iron. Mounted on wheeled frames and often protected by coverings of wet hides to resist fire, these machines were pushed toward enemy gates with relentless force. Ancient reliefs show soldiers marching alongside, shielding the ram as it slammed again and again against fortified walls. But questions linger. How much of their success came from sheer brute strength, and how much from engineering precision? Were these rams built with careful calculations of weight and momentum? Or were they simple tools of persistence refined through trial and error? And why do some accounts suggest they were as symbolic as they were destructive, representing the irresistible power of empire? Even today, the battering ram remains both a practical weapon and a mysterious emblem of ancient ingenuity. Was it mere muscle or forgotten science at work? What weapon turned the night sky into a storm of fire? In ancient Japan, warriors used hiyaya, flaming arrows designed to set enemy fortifications ablaze. These arrows were tipped with small containers of flammable material, bound tightly with cords that ignited as they flew. During sieges, volleys of fire arrows rained down on wooden castles, spreading chaos and smoke, forcing defenders to battle, both flames and foes. Chronicles describe entire fortresses collapsing under the relentless storm of fire from above. Yet mysteries remain. How effective were these weapons in practice? And what substances fueled their flames? Some evidence suggests gunpowder-like compounds were used centuries before their widespread adoption in warfare, while others point to oils and resins carefully chosen for maximum burning power. Were they simply a psychological weapon, or the foundation of more advanced incendiary technology? Even today, the flaming arrows of Japan symbolize both fear and ingenuity. Were they basic tools of destruction, or a glimpse of early science in the art of war? What kind of blade could follow a pharaoh into the afterlife? When archaeologists opened the tomb of Tutankhamun in 1922, among the treasures was a dagger unlike any other. Its blade gleamed with unusual luster, untouched by time. Decades later, scientific tests revealed its secret. The metal was not of earthly origin. The dagger had been forged from meteorite iron, fallen from the sky long before Tutankhamun's reign. But questions remain. How did ancient Egyptian craftsmen shape such rare and difficult material into a flawless weapon? Was the sword a ceremonial object, a gift from the gods, or a symbol of divine authority carried into eternity? And why does Tutankhamun's burial alone hold such an extraordinary peace, while few parallels exist elsewhere in Egyptian history? Even today, the pharaoh's sword blurs the line between heaven and earth. Was it a practical weapon, a cosmic relic, or a sacred sign of kingship? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more mysteries that challenge history itself. What secrets did Viking warriors inscribe onto the very blades they carried into battle? Archaeologists have uncovered Viking battle axes, etched with runes, symbols whose meanings are still not fully understood. These axes, found in graves and hoards across Scandinavia, were both deadly weapons and powerful cultural objects. Some runes appear to be names or ownership marks, while others seem mystical, perhaps invoking protection, strength, or the favor of the gods. Inscriptions often combine simple strokes with complex patterns, leaving scholars puzzled about their true intent. But the mystery deepens. Were these markings practical identifiers or magical charms meant to turn weapons into sacred tools of war? Could they have been ritual symbols tied to Norse mythology, blending combat with spirituality? The lack of consistent translation across sites suggests a hidden layer of meaning lost with time. Even today, Viking axes carved with runes remain enigmatic relics of faith and warfare. Were they mere decorations or coded messages of a warrior's soul? What kind of weapon carried both deadly force and deep spiritual meaning? In the highlands of Papua New Guinea, warriors once wielded daggers carved from bone. Some were made from the femurs of cassowaries, large, fierce birds native to the region, while others came from human bones, often those of respected ancestors or fallen enemies. These daggers were not just tools of combat. They were symbols of strength, lineage, and power. Their polished surfaces and intricate carvings show they were crafted with care and pride, meant to embody both physical and spiritual might. Yet mysteries endure. Why did some groups choose animal bone, while others preferred human remains? Were these daggers intended mainly for battle, or were they ceremonial objects carried into rituals of status and remembrance? And what beliefs guided the idea that a warrior's spirit could live on within a blade? Even today, bone daggers stand as haunting artifacts of tradition and identity. Were they weapons of war or sacred extensions of the soul? Why would a civilization famed for pyramids and pharaohs also craft weapons that returned through the air? Archaeologists have found boomerang-like throwing sticks buried in tombs and temples of ancient Egypt. Made of wood and carefully balanced, these weapons were not toys. They were hunting tools and possibly weapons of war. Tomb paintings show hunters hurling them at flocks of birds, while some examples were shaped in ways suggesting they could even return when thrown. Their survival for thousands of years hints at both practical use and ceremonial importance. But mysteries remain. Did Egyptians use these boomerangs solely for hunting, or did they carry symbolic value tied to gods of the hunt and afterlife? Some were discovered in royal burials, raising questions about why pharaohs would take such tools into eternity. Were they status symbols, ritual offerings, or evidence of forgotten martial practices? Even today, Egypt's boomerangs remind us of a culture whose ingenuity extended far beyond stone monuments. Were they simple hunting aids, or sacred weapons of divine design? How did one of history's fiercest empires protect its warriors against storms of arrows? The Assyrians, masters of siege and conquest in the 1st millennium BCE, equipped their soldiers with helmets designed to withstand deadly missile fire. Made of bronze or iron, these helmets often featured pointed tops to deflect arrows and reinforce cheek guards for added protection. Reliefs carved into palace walls show ranks of heavily armored troops advancing under showers of enemy projectiles, their helmets gleaming as shields against death from above. Yet the full story remains uncertain. Were these helmets products of standardized military engineering, or were they crafted individually for elite soldiers? Some designs seem ceremonial, while others show clear evidence of battle use. Archaeologists continue to debate how much protection they truly offered against powerful bows of the era. Even today, Assyrian helmets stand as symbols of innovation in ancient warfare. Were they practical armor, or ritual displays of imperial might? Why would weapons be buried deep beneath monuments built for the heavens? Archaeologists excavating ancient stone circles across Europe have uncovered caches of spears and spearheads deliberately placed beneath the standing stones. Many of these weapons were unused, their points sharp and their shafts carefully aligned, as if offered in sacrifice rather than battle. Some sites even show repeated deposits over centuries, suggesting a long tradition of ritual practice tied to these sacred landscapes. But the mystery is why. Were the spears meant as offerings to gods of war and sky, or as symbols of protection, guarding the circles themselves? Some scholars argue they reflect ceremonies of initiation or seasonal rites, where weapons mark the power of the community. Others see them as messages to the unseen world, bridging the sacred space between Earth and cosmos. Even today, these hidden weapons leave us wondering, were they tools of war transformed into symbols of peace, or echoes of rituals we no longer understand? What kind of vessels turned rivers and coastlines into floating battlefields? In parts of Mesoamerica and the Pacific, Archaeologists and oral traditions speak of war canoes outfitted not only with warriors, but also with weapons fixed directly to the boats themselves. Some canoes carried obsidian blades along their sides, razor-sharp volcanic glass capable of slicing through flesh and wood alike. Accounts suggest these canoes were used to ram enemy vessels, their mounted blades shredding as they collided, while warriors inside hurled spears and arrows. But the mystery is how widespread and effective this practice truly was. Were these war canoes tactical innovations designed for river ambushes, or symbolic displays of power meant to intimidate rivals? Obsidian's fragility makes it puzzling that it could endure such use, leaving open the question of whether these blades were practical weapons or ceremonial embellishments. Even today, the image of war canoes armed with blades captures the imagination. Were they true naval weapons, or mythic symbols of fear and dominance? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more mysteries that challenge history itself. What kind of armor protected warriors of a civilization that vanished more than 3,000 years ago? Archaeologists excavating Mycenaean sites in Greece have uncovered fragments of bronze plates, Boar-Tusk helmets, and even full-body armor buried with elite warriors. The most famous discovery, the Dendra panoply, dates to the 15th century BCE and consists of overlapping bronze plates covering nearly the entire body. It was far more advanced than the simple leather or linen armor of neighboring cultures, offering protection that seems closer to medieval knights than Bronze Age soldiers. Yet mysteries remain. Was this heavy armor practical in battle? Or was it ceremonial, meant to display power and status rather than endure combat? The rarity of such finds suggests only a handful of warriors ever wore them, raising questions about whether the Mycenaeans held secret knowledge of metallurgy and military organization now lost. Even today, the armor of the Mycenaeans leaves us wondering, was it a forgotten leap in ancient warfare, or a symbol of prestige buried with its secrets? What secrets of combat might be hidden in texts that no longer exist? For centuries, the Shaolin Monastery in China has been celebrated as the cradle of martial arts. Legends speak of ancient manuals, detailed scrolls filled with techniques, philosophies, and training regimens that guided monks in both body and spirit. These texts were said to record not only fighting stances, but also breathing exercises, internal energy cultivation, and even strategies of war. Yet many of these manuals have vanished. Wars, fires, and political upheavals scattered or destroyed countless Shaolin writings, leaving only fragments behind. Were they practical guides for warriors, or esoteric teachings blending combat with spiritual enlightenment? Some historians believe their loss has left gaps in our understanding of how Shaolin arts evolved, while others suspect that some texts may still lie hidden within private collections or forgotten archives. Even today, the missing manuals fuel speculation. Were they simple training records, or keys to a deeper knowledge that bridged philosophy, medicine, and combat? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more mysteries that challenge history itself.